This is Math 7, Section 2.5, Operations with Rational Numbers. First, we are going to add rational numbers. So a rational number, remember, is a number that can be written as m over n, where n does not equal 0. That's a rational number. So if m over n is negative, either m or n can be negative, but not both m and n. So if it's negative m over n, that could equal negative m over n, or it could equal m over negative n. But it cannot be negative m over negative n, because that would be positive. So this is not possible. But this can equal these two. So let's go to our big idea. Big idea. Make a box. So the sum of two rational numbers with the same denominator. Sum of two rational numbers with same denominator. That was a hard word to spell. Remember, the numerator is on the top, the denominator is on the bottom. So if they have the same bottom, the sum of those two, this is how you're going to do it. So let's say a over b plus c over b. If you're going to add them, you could just say that a plus c over b, because the bottoms are the same. And that's how you do the sum that way. But let's say that we want to find the sum of two rational numbers with different denominators. Okay, different things on the bottom. For example, a over b plus c over d. Here they were the same, here they're different. So we can't just do the same thing, but we have to do a times d, so cross c times b, and then on the bottom we're going to do b times d. So first you crisscross a times d plus c times b, and then on the bottom you multiply. And that's how you would add. Okay, well let's try this. To add two rational numbers such as 1/5 and negative 2/3, you can apply the rules you know for adding integers. Remember, this is our big idea. So let's apply them. We have 1/5 and negative 2 over 3. So first let's find the least common denominator of this and this. To find the least common denominator, it would be 15, because 15 is the smallest thing that 5 goes into and 3 goes into. So our LCD equals 15. Remember, LCD, least common denominator, is the smallest number both denominators can go into. They're both factors. Usually it's found by multiplying, but not always. It's not always the least common multiple just by multiplying. But here it happens to be. So 5 and 3, the LCD is 15. So now we want to make the denominator 15. And so how we do that is 1/5 becomes 1 over 5 times 3 times 3. Because you have to multiply the bottom times 3 to get 15. So you also have to multiply the top. And then plus negative 2 over 3. But we need to multiply the bottom times 5 to get to 15. So we also are going to multiply the top times 5. And that's going to give us 3/15 plus negative 10/15. Now they have the same, so we can use that top rule, and it equals 3 plus negative 10. All of that over 15 equals negative 7 over 15. Example 14. In example 14, A, it says to evaluate each expression. So negative 2 over 7 plus 3 over negative 5. So you could do it the way we did up here, or we could do the little crisscross like we learned up here. So let's crisscross. Well, first we're going to crisscross these two. So we're going to say -2 times -5 plus, then crisscross these, 3 times 7. On the bottom, we're going to do these two, so 5 times -7. Now, if we multiply that all out, -2 times -5 is 10, plus 3 times 7 is 21. On the bottom, we have 5 times -7, which becomes -35. The top becomes 31. The bottom is -35. So the whole thing is -31 over 35. B, 1 2/3 plus -2 1/6. So notice a mixed number is a sum of 2 and the other number. So 2 and the fraction. So both of them are part of it, and so both of them are negative. So if I split this up, I would not say that this is -2 and 1/6. I would say that it is -2 times -1/6. Or not negative, sorry. It would be both negative, but you're adding them. So -2 plus -1/6. And that's what the two things it splits into is addition there, okay? So that's just a little note of how you separate them. So now let's separate them, and it becomes 1 plus 4/6 plus -2 plus -1/6. Notice we kept that negative sign on both of those because they are both negative. Now let's rewrite it as 1 plus -2 so that they are together, and then we want to put the fractions together. So plus 4/6 plus -1/6. Now let's put these together. So if we bring these two here, 1 plus -2 becomes -1, and 4 minus 1 becomes 3, and then the bottom stays the same, so we get 6, and notice that was a positive number. So we now have we have -1, and we have this. So because the signs are the same, we cannot just squish them together, because this is a negative number and this is a positive number. So we can't squish them together. What we actually have to do is make 1 equivalent to a fraction. So we'll say 1 is -6/6 plus 3/6. Now, these two are the same, so we can add the top. So it's -6 plus 3, which equals -3/6, which equals -1/2. And that is the answer. C. Hope you can see all that. C says 2/5 plus -4/15 plus 1/10. To solve this, we could use two methods, method 1 or method 2. So add two rational numbers at the same time, working from left to right. So we could add two of them first, and then we could add the other two. So let's try doing that. We're going to add these two first. So let's just do the little crisscross. So, well, okay, we don't have to do the crisscross if the least common denominator is one of these numbers. The least common denominator here is actually 15. So we don't have to do anything to this fraction. To put these two together, we could just say 2 times 3 and 5 times 3 to get the least common denominator of 15. And then we could say plus -4/15 plus 1/10. So now these two together are going to equal 6/15 plus -4/15 plus 1/10. And that becomes 6 plus negative 4 over 15 plus 1/10. That becomes 2/15 plus 1/10, which becomes 2 times 2 over 15 times 2 plus 1 times 3 over 10 times 3. Notice the reason we picked 2 and 3 here is because between 15 and 10, the LCD is 30. They both go into 30. That's the smallest number they both go into. So to get to 30 from 15, we multiply it times 2, multiply top times 2. To get to 30 from 10, we multiply the top and the bottom times 30. That's how we get there. So now we find out that we have 4/30 plus 3/30, which gives us 7/30. Can't be simplified. There you go. You could also try method 2. Method 2 is where you use a least common denominator for all three fractions. So how we're going to do that, to find the least common denominator of three things, is you will make a little flow chart. This might not work for all of you, but you can try it if it works for you. 5, 10, and 15. We're going to find a least common denominator of these three things. So in order to do that, we're going to divide the common prime factor by 5. So we're dividing this by 5. It becomes 3. We divide 10, and it becomes 2. Because we're dividing by 5, they're all divided by 5. So the 10 becomes 2, the 5 becomes 1. Now we can take the 1, the 2, and the 3. And that's going to give us, when we're going to multiply all these numbers, so it's going to be 5 times 1 times 2 times 3, which is going to equal 30. So the least common denominator of 5, 10, and 15 is 30. So you could also do it that way, and then for this equation up here, you could find you could put them all in terms of 30, so it'd be like 2 times 6 over 5 times 6 to get to 30, plus negative 4 times 2 over 15 times 2 to get to 30, plus 1 times 3 over 10 times 3 to get to 30. This whole thing equals 12 over 30, plus negative 8 over 30, plus 3 over 30, which equals 12 plus negative 8 plus 3 over 30 equals 7 over 30, same as above. Why don't you guys give that a try? Guided practice 1, 2, and 3. Now that we've had the fun of adding them, let's subtract rational numbers. Subtract rational numbers. Here is our big key idea here. So the difference when we subtract of two rational numbers with the same denominator, when we do that, we're going to say a over b minus c over b. They have the same denominator, so we could just say a minus c over b. The difference of two rational numbers with different denominator is a over b minus c over d. And it's similar to the last one, we crisscross, except instead of addition, it's going to be subtraction. So it's like crisscross AD minus crisscross CB over BD. And that's how you do that. So for example, to say 2/5 minus 1/2, you could just crisscross 2 times 2 minus crisscross 5 times 1 over 5 times 2, which equals 4 minus 6 over, minus 5 over 10, which becomes negative 1 over 10, which equals negative 1/10. And that's your answer for that. So remember, when you subtract a from b, it does not mean a minus b, it means b minus a. So in the story problem, when it said, let's subtract 1/2 from 2/5, you're saying 1/2 from 2/5, it means this. Because 1/2 you're taking away from 2/5. Okay, so it's not 1/2 minus 2/5. It's 2/5 minus 1/2. It doesn't matter which one's bigger, you just do what the problem tells you to do. So example 15, evaluate each expression. 1/6 minus 3/4. Let's do the little crisscross. 1 times 4 minus 3 times 6 over 6 times 4. You know what? There's an easier way to do this. You could do it this way, but you'd get very large numbers. So let's try it a different way. The least common denominator of these is 12. So I picked the wrong least common denominator. You could do this and you would get an answer, but I want to do this with the least common denominator. So 1 over 6, 6 and 4, the least common denominator is 12 because 6 goes into 12 twice, 4 goes into 12 3 times. So we need to do this 1 times 2 over 6 times 2 minus 3 times 3 over 4 times 3 gives us 2 over 12 minus 9 over 12 gives us 2 minus 9 over 12 gives us negative 7 over 12 gives us negative 7/12. And that's our answer for this one. B, we have 2 and 1/4 minus 4 and 2/3 equals 2. We're going to find the least common denominator for these, which is, again, 12. So we have 2, 1 times 3 over 4 times 3 minus 4, 2 times 4 over 3 times 4. Now let's figure that out. So 2 3/12 minus 4 8/12. Now we have the same denominator there. Now let's split these things up. So we could say that equals 2 plus 3/12 plus negative 4 plus negative 8/12. Remember that negative transfers to both of these numbers here because they're added together. So we have all this. Now let's put the similar numbers together. So 2 plus negative 4. We're going to put those two together. Then we're going to put these two together. Plus 3/12 plus negative 8/12. And that will give us negative 2 plus negative 5/12. We can simplify this because the signs are the same. We can put them together as negative 2 and 5/12. Okay. C, we have 1/3 minus 11/12 minus 1/2. And this equals, we can do this in two ways. So let's start with method 1. Method 1 says subtract two rational numbers at a time, working from left to right. So let's subtract these two first. Given least common denominator is 12, so we will say that this whole thing is equal to 1 over 3 times 4 times 4 to get 12 on both of these, minus 11/12 minus 1/2 equals 4/12 minus 11/12 minus 1/2. Remember, we're combining these two first, so then that becomes 4 minus 11 over 12 minus 1/2. So this whole thing, bring it down. 4 minus 11 is negative 7 over 12 minus 1/2. Now we want to get these two at the same denominator, so let's multiply this times 6 this times 6, that times 6, is going to equal negative 7 twelfths minus 6 twelfths equals negative 7 minus 6 twelfths equals negative 13 over 12. Simplified is negative 1 and 1/12. Method 2, use a common denominator for all three fractions. For this case, it seems to be easier because all of the numbers can go into 12. So we already have to transfer them to 12 anyway. So 1/3, to make it 12, you say 3 times 4. Top is going to be times 4, minus 11 times 12, already there, minus 1 times 6 to get to 12, because 2 times 6 is 12. And then we could say that equals to 4 over 12 minus 11 over 12 minus 6 over 12. And that gives us 4 minus 11 minus 6 over 12, which gives us negative 13 over 12, which gives us negative 1 and 1/12. And that is your answer. Now go ahead and try this. Guided practice 4, 5, 6, and 7. Let's try example 16 here. Example 16, subtract rational numbers in a real world situation. Mr. Dawson has a partial roll of wire, 18 1/4 feet long. He needs, this is what he has, but what he needs is 25 1/2 feet of wire for a remodeling project. How many feet of wire is he short? So we need to find out how many he's short. We're going to take how many he needs minus how many he has to find out how many he is short. So 25 1/2 minus 18, oh sorry, that would actually be, let me rewrite that. How many he has minus how many he needs equals how many he's short. And it's going to give us a negative number because it's going to tell us how many he needs. So pretty much it's going to be 18 1/4 minus 25 1/2. There we go. Got this. So let's give these two a least common denominator that's the same, which happens to be 4. So 18 1/4 minus 25 1/2. We're going to take both times 2 to get to 4. That's going to give us 18 1/4 minus 25 2/4. Now let's separate these out so it becomes 18 plus 1/4 minus 25 minus 2/4. Remember that minus has to carry to both of those because we're subtracting both of them, not just the 25. So the subtraction goes over there, and then we rearrange it so it's 18 minus 25 plus 1/4 minus 2/4. So we arranged it so these are together. Now we can put these together, 18 minus 25 equals negative 7. 1/4 minus 2/4 equals negative 1/4. Now we can add these together since they're both negative. It's just going to equal negative 7 1/4 feet of wire. That's how much he is short. So close. Go ahead and try guided practice 8. Now let's multiply rational numbers. Okay, remember that when the signs are the same, like a positive times a positive, it equals a positive. Negative times a negative equals a positive. So that's when they are the same. If it is a positive times a negative, it's going to equal negative. Or if it's a negative times a positive, it's going to equal a negative. So that's when they are different. So remember, when they're the same, they're positive. When they're different, they're negative. For example, 1 over 2 times 3 over 4 equals 1 times 3 over 2 times 4 equals 3/8. Notice they're both positive, so the answer is positive. Or if we do negative